Election day is here for voters in this province. The four main party leaders made their final pitches to Ontarians yesterday, wrapping up 4 weeks of campaigning. Now, we want to remind you, polls open this morning at 9 o'clock and will stay open until 9 p.m. And joining us right now is CTV News political analyst Tom Mulcair. Good morning, Tom.
Good to be with you, Stefan.
Always great to be with you as well. And I'm unhappy to report that we are under a weather advisory here in Ottawa. And so unless folks get out early, they may be discouraged to being on the roads and actually casting that ballot. We know Toronto is also seeing this weather advisory, so it's impacting several municipalities. That being said, what are you expecting for voter turnout? Advanced polls are already so low.
Well, that's going to be a problem because depending on the party, sometimes you know that your demographic, and if your voters tend to be in the older category, they are the type to be discouraged by bad weather. And I remember it happening once in one of the referendums we went through, and the weather was decent in the morning. We were able to get a lot of the folks out, and then by noon the weather had closed in, and they were just saying, "No, I'm not coming out. The weather's lousy." So yeah, it does have an effect. It's been an interesting, if rapid, campaign. Only 4 weeks is very fast for a general election in Canada's largest province. And it's been an interesting case where an outside influence has come into play in a major way during the campaign, of course. Doug Ford traveling to the States, positioning himself with regard to Trump. That's an imponderable. 6 months ago, nobody knew that that could have been the case because Ford had been talking for months about perhaps going to an early election. That gave fits to his opponents in the Liberals and in the NDP and, of course, in the Green Party. So it's been a tough campaign. So Ford was opportunistic. He knew that there was an investigation going on that hadn't been reported back yet by the RCMP. He had this really strong angle of his Captain Canada role as he tried to play it with regard to Donald Trump. And we'll see how it rolls out today. You were mentioning that the polls are now open. There was an advanced poll that was light. Voter turnout can sometimes have a determining effect, but overall it's been a fascinating campaign, and one I think that other politicians in Canada were watching with envy, because I suspect some of them, including Quebec's Legault, would have loved to have gone early if they could have, but they weren't in as favorable a position as Ford to be able to pull the plug.
Tom, you say fascinating, and some say status quo, and the polls suggest that we will still have the same premier. What were some of the key moments along the campaign trail for you, or what makes you describe it as fascinating?
For me, one of the things that set the tone for this campaign was the leaders' debate. All three opposition leaders gave their best. Marit Stiles, Bonnie Crombie, Mr. Schreiner of the Green Party, they were all fighting as hard as they could. Doug Ford had a simple answer. He just kept pushing back on the economy. They'd talk about education. They'd talk about health care and other subjects that are provincial and you would think would be the core here. He would just push back all the time saying, yes, but none of that's possible if you don't have an economy. And he said that he was all about the economy. And he would, of course, refer right back to the threat from the United States and from Donald Trump. So that's the way the thing shaped up. Now, of course, the only poll that counts today is the polling station. And people will be voting and will be counting those votes. But as you say, it's been a campaign where it was quite opportunistic on the part of Conservative leader Doug Ford, and we'll see whether his big bet pans out.
Definitely. What will you be looking for as the results start to trickle in?
One of the things is what we've just mentioned, voter turnout. Are we going to see a 65 or 70% voter turnout, or is it going to be more like 50 or 55? And that can tilt quite a bit. I think that together we're going to see probably the opposition parties come up with a number that, if it had been concentrated on one party, would have been able to give Doug Ford a real run for his money. But since it's almost perfectly divided, that opposition vote, it does certainly make Mr. Ford's life easier.
All right, Tom, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Happy Election Day.
All the best.
Take care.